Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Cody Proctor. This is the KREM 2 News Week in Review, where each weekend we bring you the headlines from the past week here in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days.
Kootenai County Sheriff Bob Norris took away special deputy status for the police chiefs in Coeur d'Alene and Rathdrum. This came as a surprise to those agencies who say there may be some impacts going forward. In Idaho, city police can only act inside their city limits unless it's an emergency or another agency calls them in. But sheriffs can grant something called special deputy status, which lets those officers operate county-wide. Without it, police chiefs Lee White and Dan Haley can now only use policing powers within their city boundaries.
I was surprised. There's always that question that comes up as to why it occurred.
Chief Haley says people living in Rathdrum won't see any major changes, and while Haley can no longer operate countywide, he's relieved that most of his officers still can.
One of the easiest ways to explain the change is I see a traffic infraction at one of the lights on Highway 41 going to Post Falls. Once I'm outside of the city limits, I am no longer able to stop that person.
And Chief White in Coeur d'Alene says SWAT will likely see the biggest impact. He told me Coeur d'Alene officers make up about 2/3 of the county's joint agency SWAT team. Both city and county SWAT members will still jointly respond to calls. But White says the sheriff's office will have complete control of individual city officers on what they can or can't do without any oversight from Coeur d'Alene PD leadership. Meantime, Chief Haley hopes the sheriff will reinstate this status.
I would like to continue to be able to be a force multiplier for the residents even outside of Rathdrum. I live and work in Kootenai County, and so I care about what occurs within that jurisdiction.
The sheriff's office says Sheriff Norris will not be commenting on the issue, but Chief White says this all stems from the sheriff being unhappy about the investigation into his involvement in the February town hall incident. Reporting in Coeur d'Alene, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
We are just feet away from Lightning Creek, where quite literally the road is deteriorating by the minute. Let's take a look at what I'm seeing right now. Now, I spoke to some residents earlier today that say this road was completely intact just hours ago. As you can see, the creek is just moving very, very fast, and it's very, very high here in the area. Honestly, since we've been here at Clark Fork, this road has just been peeling off in chunks. Now, this is just a glimpse of what residents have been dealing with for the last couple of days with the rainy weather that they've been seeing here in North Idaho. As the creeks continue to flood,
every once in a while, every decade or so, it floods.
I'm watching the road go by.
Residents and law enforcement alike are left wondering what the aftermath of this weather event in their small town will look like.
We have a lot of roads washed out.
Wes Johnson, the incident commander for Clark Fork Fire Department, says it's not just the roads, though. It's also the town's main water system that was washed away as well, causing a water boil advisory for the time being. CFFD says work started around 2:30 in the morning, evacuating close to 100 residents along the Spring and Lightning Creeks.
Well, what's really made it difficult is our main road going in is not passable anymore. It's crumbled off into the river.
2 evacuation sites have been made available, one inside of Clark Fork and the other at the Sandpoint Fairgrounds. This isn't the first time something like this has happened to the town of Clark Fork, but residents like Diane Newcomer says it definitely doesn't happen often.
We're newcomers, but we came in 1960.
She heard boulders falling into the rushing water all night, but she says she never could have imagined this amount of damage when she woke up.
Well, we did the chores this morning, and I said, let's go look up the creek, thinking that we would go to the East Fork, which is 5 miles up farther. We didn't get anywhere near that far.
With more wet weather in the forecast, John says crews will be out all night making sure people are able to get back safely. However, it will still be a long time before Clark Fork looks the way it did just earlier this week.
Lots of repair.
Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
I'm at Huntington Park, right next to the Spokane Falls. As you can see next to me, the river is flowing very steadily. Now, there's a few new raindrops in the air than from earlier this evening when I got here. And when that wind just picks up just right, I get misted right in the face. Now, earlier today, I visited Riverfront Park and talked to people who were out and about despite those rainy weather conditions. One mother told me that she wants the rain to go away. She wants to see snow and a white Christmas for her daughters. And another young gentleman said he's liking the warmer winter weather. Go ahead and take a listen.
I mean, I want to take the girls sledding, so it's kind of annoying because I want to do that. But I mean, like, such first world problems, like not having a white Christmas. Honestly, it's
hard once you get out. It's super cold, but then once you're out and running, it helps you so much. It helps you cool you down, and then eventually when you stop, you're like able to be a comfortable temperature in cold weather and just go for like a cool down walk or whatever.
Now, I also talked with officials with the Spokane River Keeper. They say the Spokane River is running higher than normal, but the levels are nowhere near what people are seeing on the west side of the state. They say their biggest concern right now at this time of year, it should be snowing rather than raining. And again, if you're taking time to go outside tonight, please just be extra cautious. As Jeremy was saying, we're still seeing those high winds throughout this evening. And also, speaking from experience, if you have those loose holiday decorations, we recommend you bring them inside for the evening. You don't want anything to break. My welcome sign and my garland is still on my porch on the ground from 2 nights ago. So anyways, stay safe out there this evening. Reporting at Spokane Falls, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It's been a busy week across the inland Northwest, so let's catch you up on some of the news you might have missed.
Well, before his death last week, many wondered how Co's release was possible, even with his declining health. Now, state lawmakers are making sure there are more steps in place to prevent those like Co from ever being released from the Special Commitment Center again. In the new proposed bill, if a convicted rapist confined in the SCC wants to be released, but the state can prove that they refuse to participate in sex offender treatment while in confinement and they have not expressed remorse for their actions, they cannot be released. Now, Senator Schessler says if this criteria was in place, Co would never have been set free.
There aren't a lot of ways to keep someone there, but if they refuse treatment, never acknowledge guilt, show remorse, apologize, there's a narrow window of things that attorneys in the legislature, nonpartisan staff said you could use to keep these people at a special commitment center. We're not dealing with a huge number of offenders, but we do know that there are people that have never accepted treatment, and we want to make sure that this doesn't repeat itself.
At the heart of the bill, Senator Schessler says this is to protect the victims of these crimes. Now, Rochelle Cleland, the Director of Advocacy and Education for Lutheran Community Services Northwest, works directly with these victims and says a bill like this is necessary, especially after she saw firsthand the impact of Co getting released.
Survivors deserve to know that their trauma isn't minimized, isn't forgotten, and that the system is meant to protect them. That is a system that often lets survivors down. And so I really appreciate and respect when legislators can come together, and do their best to stand with survivors is really important.
Now, if you are looking for resources about local advocacy groups for sexual assault survivors, we have those links up on our website, krem.com. The 2026 legislative session starts on January 12th. In the newsroom, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
The Spokane County Sheriff's Office has arrested 40-year-old Ryan Olson in connection to a months-long drug sales investigation. They were able to search his home located here at North Regal and Lincoln Road.
The Spokane County Sheriff's Office says in the fall of 2025, detectives with the Spokane Valley Investigative Unit began investigation of sales of a controlled substance, believing there to be large quantities of fentanyl and methamphetamine sold in the county. The Sheriff's Office says through their findings, they determined Ryan Olson to be a suspect in this case, who, as it turned out, is a 13-time convicted felon. His record includes second-degree identity theft and unlawful possession of firearms, 3 counts of second-degree burglary, second and first-degree theft, second-degree organized retail theft, 2 counts of trafficking stolen property in the first degree, and 2 counts of retail theft extenuating circumstances. Olson also, as it turns out, had an active felony Washington State Department of Corrections escape community custody warrant for his arrest. The sheriff's office says this, combined with charges of delivery of a controlled substance and use of a building for drug purposes, led to them getting a search warrant for his home at North Regal in Lincoln in late November. Detectives say they found hundreds of blue pills suspected of containing fentanyl and meth. Additionally, detectives also say they found 3 firearms, one of which was stolen, cash, different credit and debit cards, a stolen bike, and license plate. Because of this, the sheriff's office has also charged Olson with 3 counts of unlawful possession of a firearm, a stolen firearm, a controlled substance with intent to deliver, endangerment with a controlled substance, and possession of stolen property in the 2nd and 3rd degree. Olson's booked in the Spokane County Jail with a Washington State DOC hold. The sheriff's office says this investigation is still ongoing.
Olson's total bond is set at $190,000. In Spokane, Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Thanks for joining KREM 2 News this weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Right now, we're taking a look back at some of the news stories from the past week in this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review.
Water in Auburn reached gas pumps, homes, and triggered rescues Wednesday. Officials warn there's more to come from historic flooding.
This is how dramatic the Green River, all the way back at those trees, is flooding. It is cutting off this intersection and inundating this gas station.
Teslas, trucks, and SUVs pushed through feet of floodwater.
I knew there was a rainstorm coming, but I came out and got here this morning. I was like, holy crap, what's going on?
People who work nearby say they've never seen the river come this close.
This is the worst I've seen the flooding here just for a few days of rain, and we still got a few days left to go. That's what's kind of worrying.
Governor Bob Ferguson signed a statewide emergency declaration that paves the way for federal disaster funds. Staff at the Emergency Operations Center at Camp Murray are taking requests for help from counties and tribal partners 24/7.
The impact on Washingtonians is significant now, and it's going to be significant in the coming days, and that is an understatement.
If you live near water, it's time to listen.
Communities hit the hardest can expect some of the 300 National Guard members deploying over the next 48 hours.
I've seen the owner stand here for like about an hour or so, and he was sitting there basically shaking his head going, oh, what do I do now?
Flooding in Auburn is one of the first signs of what state leaders say could get worse. In Auburn, Alex McClune, King 5 News.
A high-stakes clash on soccer's biggest stage. Seattle's inclusive vision versus global sensitivities. The rainbow flags, signs, and support you see on Pride Weekend were already planned to carry over to the World Cup Pride match on June 26th at Lumen Field, when last week's FIFA tournament draw happened to select Egypt and Iran, 2 countries where homosexuality is punished. In Egypt, LGBTQ people risk arrest under vague morality laws, while in Iran, homosexuality is illegal and can even carry the death penalty. Both nations fired off objections on Tuesday, calling for Pride events to be scrapped and the Seattle match to remain purely a sporting event. In a letter to FIFA, the Egyptian Football Association said the Pride match events conflict with the region's cultural, religious, and social values, warning that LGBTQ support could provoke sensitivities. Meanwhile, the head of Iran's Football Association called the Pride match branding irrational and said Iran had also protested to FIFA, claiming it goes against its long-standing tradition of neutrality. Despite the international backlash, the Seattle World Cup committee that created the Pride match is standing by its decision, providing this statement to King 5 on Tuesday. Seattle FWC 26 will be moving forward as planned with our community programming outside the stadium during Pride Weekend and throughout the tournament, partnering with LGBTQ+ leaders, artists, and business owners to elevate existing Pride celebrations across Washington.
In this rehabilitation room,
I haven't touched this thing in like 5 months now.
Matt Kidd fights his way back.
Ready?
One task
With your left hand.
one movement, one victory at a time.
It's very quick when it happens, and it's just like night and day. You wake up the next day and your normal life is gone.
A stroke stole his ability to use his left arm.
Pretty much had given up on my arm at that point. I would walk around and drag it with me. Sorry. I don't mean to be a mess.
Matt had his stroke more than 4 years ago, and traditional rehabilitation only helped to a point. When he asked his doctors about other options, he learned about a study UW medicine researchers were doing here, and he quickly signed up.
A month later, we signed the waivers, talked to some doctors, and I didn't have any hesitation on it.
UW surgeons implanted a first-of-its-kind device.
It's just amazing that cut my head open, put a device on my brain, connect it to, a wire to a computer, and get things to work that don't work.
Now, regaining function is the focus. When Matt first arrived in July, movement was minimal.
There you go.
Didn't have much control of his thumb or the ability to move a lot of his fingers.
This clinical trial combines old school therapy and cutting-edge neuroscience.
So we're stimulating the parts of the brain that are responsible for the controlling of Matt's left arm to basically try to enhance that rehabilitation process.
I don't think I'll ever be 100%, but it came back to the point that I'm doing things with it that I couldn't do before the study. And
Matt dove into the groundbreaking study, and what he's gained goes beyond movement. He's found a team he can trust.
It's a extension of family when you go into something like this, and Harborview has literally brought me back from the dead.
In Seattle, Natalie Swaby, King 5 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you that you can get the latest newscasts and weather forecasts anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It's free to watch and download on Roku, Amazon Fire, and on Apple TV. Now, here's one more story before we go.
What's up, everyone? I am so excited to be hanging out here at a brand new venue. Right now, I'm hanging out with Renee and Sherry. This is a Bird's Place. It's one of 5 local businesses, all focused on pet-centric needs, right? So this is the place where you come if you got some bird needs. How are you all feeling?
Great.
Yeah? What about you, Sherry?
I love it.
I love it. I love birds. So I'm legitimately thankful that you all are hanging out with me. Can you talk about your love for birds? Why?
Birds are amazing. They're very smart. They're very sweet. They're. How can you not love that?
How can you not love that? What about for you, Sherry?
More or less the same thing. Birds are just, they each have their own personality. They're great to hang out with. They're almost better than husbands.
Hey, if you're watching right now, what's your husband's name?
But that would be Kevin.
Kevin, she doesn't mean that though. She doesn't, she may mean it. Well, but for you all, how fun is it to be a part of this new space, because you don't find something like this everywhere you go, but 5 different local businesses focused on pets.
It's great because they all feed off of each other. Somebody might come in to get their dog washed, but they can have coffee or come visit some birds. And pet owners usually like all pets, so
exactly, yeah.
It's fun for everyone.
And what do people need to know before they come down here?
Oh, wow. They just need to know to have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, come in, trust the birds, trust the dogs that are here, and just enjoy yourself.
You can't not enjoy yourself. If we can get a shot of Desi real quick. Desi is going to be the one who tosses it back to the studio. So, Desi, if you can go ahead and toss it back to the studio for us. Well, thank you for being out here with us. We'll toss it back to you here now. KREM 2 News, back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much for spending a part of your weekend with us on the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here on KREM 2 for more news and weather updates. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.